Creamer Media's Mining Weekly is interviewing July Ndlovu, the CEO of Thungela, which has just reported superb half-year financial results. July, how many employees does Thungela have, and how will they share in the 500 million rand half-year contribution being allocated to them and the community?
So, to be clear, there are two trusts that we're talking about. Each one is going to get 250 million rand. The one is the Employee Partnership Plan, roughly 4,500 qualifying employees. And if you take what we distributed in respect of 2021 and this dividend, it equates to roughly 100,000 rand per qualifying employee. The other trust, however, is the Nkulo Community Partnership Trust that has got its own trust, and they are busy working on their strategy of how to get to use a significant contribution we've made in the first year, almost 400 million rand, to really begin to build a trust that can outlive the life of our mines.
How is the Tukakani program uplifting small entrepreneurs in Mpumalanga?
So Tukakani is again another intervention that we've put in place designed to ensure that not only do we incubate small to medium enterprises, but we also give them the skills, the technical skills, but we also give them access to lending, because that's usually one of the more difficult things. Over and above that, we want to ensure that they've got access to opportunities too. That's what that incubation and development, supply development program is meant to do.
What is Thungela doing to improve the environment under its ESG obligations?
We have been very clear, Martin. We said, firstly, in the first instance, we want to think broader in terms of ESG. Think beyond usually what everyone does, which is talk to a subset of E, which is only the emissions rather than the environment. We think about it holistically. Having said that, strategically, we have also said we think we want to spike on S. So the reason why you and me have had this discussion about some of our most important stakeholders, our employees, communities, and the small to medium enterprises, businesses in the areas that we operate, is really our commitment to spike on S. Equally, spiking on S talks to what I spoke to first in our results, which is our commitment to run a fatality-free business. And I'm pleased with the progress that we're making. If you go back to E, what we have said is that we are developing our climate change strategy because we want to chart a pathway to net zero by 2050. We qualify that by saying we'll do that in the subject to the requirements of the countries within which we operate and the markets we serve. That is to recognize that we are a developing country company and we serve markets in the developing countries which are dependent on coal. Internally, we've started the baselining. We are busy reviewing and finding those opportunities to be able to reduce our carbon footprint. And that's the reason why in my results announcement today, I gave you specific examples that one, at our water treatment plant, we're already putting up a solar plant. We are putting up a solar plant, a 4 megawatt solar plant at our Zibulo mine. We also have made a commitment that the Elders project, that complex will be powered with solar. Again, that is all effort to mitigate the impacts from an E point of view. We're doing some other absolutely excellent work from an environmental point of view. We're trialing technologies from a water management point of view, such as phytoremediation, and we've set a target to plant. We've already planted 20,000 trees. The target that we've set for ourselves is stretch, a million trees. But these trees actually have got a scientific function to abstract contaminated water, lock up the sulfates and heavy minerals, and therefore we can discharge cleaner water into the environment. We're trialing passive treatment technologies that can ensure that we have got far more sustainable solutions in the coal basin. So that's some of the work, just to give you a sense of the work we're doing from an environmental point of view.
Would cash-rich Thungela not consider taking all its power in solar form, given that this has got a strong business case?
Look, we evaluate this both from a business case point of view, but also from an ESG point of view. And that's why it's both at Zibulo and Elders, we're doing what we're doing. We'll continue to look for these opportunities to reduce our own carbon footprint. And where it makes sense, we'll do it.
What is the Thungela view on the just energy transition, and in what way is Thungela prepared to assist with the just energy transition in South Africa?
A lot of these terms mean different things to different people. You'd have noticed that the way I just described our ESG strategy is probably the best example of what a just transition is all about, isn't it? What you want to do is to ensure that the people who are most affected by your activities and minds don't get left behind. The reason why we set up the Nkulo Trust completely unencumbered, and we've been able to contribute close to R500 million into that trust in the first year, is to make sure that we set it up, we give it a foundation, so that the people in Mpumalanga do not get left behind as a result of transitioning out of coal. Sometimes just transition advocates forget that to be able to do that, you've got to continue to supply secure and affordable energy as you begin to transition. And therefore, that is where companies like us who have got high quality coals that can be supplied to markets that will produce the critical raw materials we all require to deploy renewable energies come to play. I believe that coal has a critical role to play in the just transition debate. We all just have to be sensible about it.
What is Thungela doing to restore the river system that was polluted by the uncontrolled release of water into the Kromdraai Spruit and the Wilke River on the 14th of February?
I'm glad to share with you that we developed a remediation plan that the regulator and the DWS have now approved. We are collaborating with experts, but one expert in particular excites us, which is the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Board. They are experts on restoring aquatic life in the river system, in particular the Olifants River system, which was impacted in this instance. The piece of work we are doing right now is what we call baselining. And what this baselining is doing is to identify what species do we need to bring in. And I can tell you now that the program that the team has put together has now given me so much more confidence that when we stood up and said we would do what is right to restore that ecosystem to what it was before the spill, I now know that scientifically it is possible, and we're going to do it.
Do your rehabilitation obligations involve restoring the land to what it was before mining began on it?
Our aspiration is to rehabilitate the land to take it back to sustainable use. So we think that in some instances we should be able to rehabilitate this land to be able to use it for agricultural purposes. When we say we can return that land to sustainable use. Once I'm talking about rehabilitation, you might just want to know that the illegal miners that were occupying Kromdraai has now been moved by the Hawks. That has allowed us to send back our rehabilitation teams to, on an accelerated basis, rehabilitate that piece of real estate. So again, we're doing the right things.
What can you report on the prospect of coal miners helping to protect the planet by ensuring that carbon capture, storage and use takes place?
I was quite encouraged when Saudi Aramco, the largest oil producer, announced that they are starting to build what will be the world's largest carbon storage and capture facility. So every week, every month, we're getting more and more of these kind of facilities being announced. These are beginning to move out of proof of concept installations into commercial, reliable installations. And I think we're going to see more and more of these. What is more encouraging is the recognition by the IPCC that without carbon removal technologies, of which carbon capture, storage and use is one, it will not be possible for the world to achieve their climate mitigation goals. I think that's an important recognition. And that's why I think I'm much more encouraged about where we're going.
Can you give more insight on the U in the CCSU?
The US government, through the EPA, have set up a group. And this group is beginning to work on, with significant funding, and funding research on the uses of CO2 once it's been captured. Because the traditional use has been, if you go to the shale oil fields in the US, is you capture it and you use it for fracking purposes. We need more uses, like more different uses that capture it more permanently. I think we're beginning to see more and more investment in that direction.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly, speaking to Julian Glovu, the CEO of Thungela.